You alright? Or the world around you? And normally I'm peeling the skins off of dead rats and that, but now once a week I get to come on air and talk to you about what I assume is going to be utter shite. And I've had a bit of feedback about last week's show, and I'm going to take it on board, a bit more music, and try to explain my points a bit more, because I forget that other people can't hear my thoughts and see my memories and that. So with that in mind, and taking on the advice from last week, let's start off with a song, yeah. Here's one of Classified's new songs, Pick Your Poison. There you are. Now, grab your fucking mugs, boys and girls, and you should probably throw a couple extra scoops of those beans in there, because what's the point of it being called double drop coffee if you're not going to do it? Besides, even though I've got all that advice, I imagine you're really going to need that extra energy to follow the next 50 minutes or so of this. So, getting started, what's something that you believe where you think you might be the only person in the world who believes it? And I'll get you going. I think we're slowly being introduced to the idea of aliens entering our world, but from beneath, possibly even from the sea. Even if you just use the Bible, they say that God made something that separated the waters. So what if that's just a barrier between here and Agartha? Agartha, for those that you don't know, would be the Hollow Earth. Think about it though. There's this species of creature called the krill, and I think that the krill can photosynthesize, the only animal that can, but I'm not 100% sure. But even if that's whether that's true or not, that sounds out of this world, doesn't it? Well, it gets deeper. Yeah, it gets a lot deeper. Not bioluminescent fish like anglerfish deep, but still, deep. 2% of America is allergic to shellfish. So that's at least 0.0009, that's 3 zeros, of the world's population, or just under 152 million people, are allergic to shellfish. If we liberally apply those numbers and have nothing more than a rudimentary secondary school level understanding of maths and how numbers work in general, that's enough to wipe out all of Russia. If the krill decided to wipe out anyone, they could take out the whole of Russia. Now, I'm not saying that the krill are working for someone, rather that there are some people out there who are working for the krill. Going back to religious texts, the Bible denies people the right of eating shellfish. Could this be to protect the shellfish from being discovered, or from being overfarmed so that they're not domesticated and lose their natural instinct to control the world? As a little side note, there seems to be a huge influx in population since the 1940s, which is weird considering what was going on in the world at that time. But what if the krill made their moves back then? What if that's what we were all actually fighting, all standing shoulder to shoulder, battering crustaceans left, right, and centre? But because the krill won, they were able to rewrite history and create this whole narrative about World War II, when in fact the atrocities on both sides were actually by those sunlight transforming six-legged monsters, which, by the way, collectively weigh at least 370 million tons between them, whilst the people allergic to them only weigh 10 million tons. So they're outnumbered in that sense, and this can easily be considered a threat to at least those people. And just sticking with the krill's connection to the way the world is ran and influenced, a huge influence on Western culture is Disney, and they released their first feature-length film, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, in 1938, a couple of years before the huge rise in population began. Was this film put out so that children could be indoctrinated into the way of the shrimp? Was it put out nothing to do with shrimp? Or was it just a ploy by the shrimp because they knew they were going to need more hands to work? So they made this film about this woman who's really pure. She's Snow White, very pure. She's got 7 dwarfs, which you could look at as 7 children that she's got to look after, and she's had all these kids, and she's still pure. She's still great. She's still good, but she still had 7 kids. Now, is that the reason why loads of people had kids in that time? Because of Snow White and because of Disney. There's actually loads of television and movie references to krill, which I'll get into in a minute, but it seems wrong to only mention Western culture and not Eastern culture, so let's touch on Eastern culture for a moment. There's a lot of fish eaten in the East, in the Far East anyway, and what are fish other than a shrimp's main predator? The krill want to lower the numbers of fish threatening their existence, and have been fighting a war against the krill for years. Like us lot have, the people, by dumping plastic in the oceans. The plastic floats and stops the phytoplankton from taking in sunlight. There's a good chance I'm wrong actually, about the krill. I've done a little. I don't do much research, but I thought that didn't sound right before, so I did a little bit of pause. It went and had a look, and it's not actually the krill that photosynthesize. I think it's the plankton that does that. But anyway, this algae stuff. That's what the krill thrive off. They need that to eat. They need that to live. And by refracting and actually blocking the sunlight, we can stop the sunlight from hitting the algae and lessen the food source of the krill and maybe put a dent in their numbers. But in the East, they also used to eat an awful lot of whales. Whales eat literally a shitload of krill. They're perfectly evolved for eating krill. In fact, they've got them weird like toothbrush mouths, haven't they, with the massive like hair coming down for teeth. Recently, we've heard lots about recycling and stopping dumping things in the oceans by, all these nutters that are environmentally friendly and all that. But what if it's because the krill now own the media and all? Or at least they've got a huge influence over the media and what disinformation that the media chooses to spread. Well, the krill don't control me, guys. I say and do what I want on a daily basis. I'm Jack, the world around you, here at Threshold FM. Here's Kumbaya. That was Hopsin, Kumbaya. You're probably thinking, thank fuck that all that shrimp talk's over. Wrong. Fucking wrong, mate. I'm on one about shrimp, and I think it's because my pet shrimp died, which sounds like a weird bit in it, but I did have a pet shrimp. He was a little bamboo shrimp, and I purposely didn't give him a name because I thought that'd make him die sooner. You know, like when you get a little budgie or a canary or some goldfish and that, and you name him. Normally, the thing that you name dies, doesn't it? Like, it doesn't tend to happen with dogs and cats and that, but does tend to happen with fish. Does with me anyway. So I didn't want to give him a name, and unfortunately, he still died. He was one of the domesticated shrimp, though. He's freshwater too, so not directly and no links at all, really, to the depths of Agartha. And he was always there. He was proud of me as well. I know that my bamboo shrimp was proud that I stopped watching terrestrial TV, which is potentially controlled by the shrimp and his sort of cousins, let's say his evil cousins. And I just stuck to Netflix. So that's no news. I'm not taking in any news. There's no shrimps rotting my mind. Anyway, let's get into some of those krill references off the telly and that and off the films. Recently, the krill were a bunch of aliens in the new Captain Marvel, one of the latest Marvel films, Captain Marvel. But they've also been recurring characters in the Marvel comics since 1967. They're a militarized species moving from planet to planet, and I believe they can shapeshift, but I'm not 100% sure. Just like in The Orville, that weird sci-fi program by Seth MacFarlane, and when I say weird, I mean not funny. I don't understand if it was supposed to be funny, but from 2017, I don't know if they had a second series. I can't imagine they did. The krill were also in Doctor Who, and it's a bit of a reach, but in Dragon Ball Z, you got Krillin, literally the name Krillin. I'm not saying that it's got Krillin, Krillin, and he starts off as an enemy to Goku, and Goku, I think, was a human, just with powers, and he quickly becomes very close to Goku, the main fighter in the cartoon. Could this be a psyops of sorts to make people think that the krill are our friends, and to eradicate the notion of the krill being against the humans? They don't just invade your house through our TV screens, though, as well. They also invade through the postal system, because they can arrive in the post, and they have been doing for decades. Years ago, you could mail order these things called sea monkeys, which are just brine shrimp. They're just the sort of things you feed to a goldfish if you've got a bit more money and you can afford something more than flake. They come as an egg in a little paper sachet, properly dried out, and they can survive for decades apparently whilst they're dried out. And what are they doing in there? They're just waiting, mate. Waiting, like whatever is inside the moon is waiting for something to open it up, to hatch it, to give it the right conditions, to plant it, to fertilize it. I don't know, but they're waiting for that perfect moment, mate. Or they're still alive in the eggs and they're acting as reconnaissance when unsuspecting children dump them into the little glass bowls as well. Then they come back to life and they can send all the signals and all the things they've learned from the postal system. Imagine what you could learn from the postal system by just recording where the letters go. You would learn so much about the infrastructure of a world, of a population. Because they reach everywhere, don't they, the postal service, and maybe that's what the krill are trying to do by getting in the post. Rather than these sea monkeys simply being a way to make these measly shrimp sound cooler, could it be also a reference to the aliens that apparently interfered with ape DNA to create us, the humans? Perhaps they first messed with these aquatic apes and caused all of them to die out, meaning that they could gain control of the seas. But maybe something went wrong when they applied their otherworldly DNA to the land-dwelling apes and realised that they would need more CO2 in the atmosphere to be able to dominate the dry lands. That's why they decimate plankton populations. Phytoplankton create oxygen, which is great for fish, whales and humans, but it's really bad for the krill. So could it be that the krill are terraforming the earth for themselves? Or perhaps the krill are actually a race of aliens that landed in the sea rather than came from beneath the crust of the earth. Maybe in the 20th century, they made breakthroughs in contacting the humans they created and distracted them with technology. Environmentally dangerous technology and all, that pumps poisonous gases into the atmosphere, like cars, vans, factories. They're all pumping out CO2, which damages plant life and increases the temperature of the earth. Now, I'm unsure why they would want it to get warmer. I'm not too sure, because that would lower the sea level. So maybe they're not actually, maybe they don't actually need to live in the sea. Maybe they just hide out there. Maybe they're in as a shrimp. Maybe the shrimp are like a larval form, a larval stage of the reptilian aliens, perhaps. I don't know. I'm not an expert. Maybe the warm and the planet heating up is just a byproduct. Or maybe they're not the larval form of it. Maybe the krill are just being used by another species. Perhaps the tall whites or the reptilians that supposedly lurk in the fifth dimension. Who knows? But I bet getting all those TVs into people's houses created emissions. You got, obviously they can use the TVs to influence people with the films and the media that's on them. The krill, they can teach people what they want people to learn and what they want people to believe and change their perceptions. They got all the emissions from the delivery lorries. So they're the delivery lorries and the boats that are bringing in all the resources. You've got the mining of the resources, which is damaging the environment. And even the manufacturing process, mate, that's gonna damage the environment and cause harm to the humans, and that's what the krill want, innit? And imagine if they just keep making TVs bigger and bigger and bigger. Like they used to be like the size of a palm of your hand kind of thing, and now like some of them are bigger than my wingspan. Like some you got the ones in the cinema, mate. They're massive. So just next time you're in the cinema, you look at a big screen. Think to yourself, how much has the krill paid? How much have the shrimp paid? How long did it take for the shrimp to plan this? And how many emissions have been put out by this massive TV screen here? Because they used to have them tubes in it as well. I think it was in a game I played called Trunderbrook. Don't know if it's true, but the old TVs used to have a tube that would literally give off radiation as well. So that will alter your DNA. So maybe they had to alter the DNA that the apes, the land-dwelling apes that they'd already interfered with and that had eventually evolved into humans as we know now. Maybe they also needed a little bit more radiation to give them a little bit more of a push so that they could interfere with the DNA again. I was watching Abducted in Plain Sight the other night on Netflix about this guy that abducts and manipulates a young girl by seducing both of her mum and her dad. But he convinced the girl that she was a part of a mission to save the world concerning some aliens. That she was part alien and that he was an alien. But he later tells some nuns he's in the CIA and he dumps her at a convent. I think it's well worth a watch, but it got me thinking, isn't it weird that aliens tend to come in pairs? Not your Tuscumbian space penguins or your Loveland frogmen of Ohio. They didn't come in pairs. They were in little groups. But you named aliens that have a name like, or they have a relationship where it's a pair. Like I think there was George Bush and was it J Rod or R Rod or T Rod or something. You had I want to say Roosevelt, but I could be wrong. Or Hoover. Was it Hoover that had Val Valiant Thor? The Val Valiant Thor was connected with some president anyway, and there's a pair there, and Val Valiant Thor did have a little team though, so it kind of goes against it. But you've got Enki and Enlil in the Anunnaki stories. In the Bible, you've got the angel Gabriel, who's cooking God. They're not quite coming in pairs, but they kind of come together because Gabriel came inside the Virgin Mary, and that was God's own ejaculate. So together they came together as a pair, and we're led to believe that anyway. And obviously Enki and Enlil had a bunch of other alien brethren knocking around with them to aid in the alleged molestation and raping of the newly created human race. Not too dissimilar from how Zeus used to try and fuck pretty much anything that was mortal in the stories believed by the ancient Greeks. Pairs of aliens is such a noticeable trope that the rapist fella in Abducted in Plain Sight invented a pair of aliens to aid in the molestation of the young girl. They were called Zeta and Zethra, and they were used to coerce the girl into allowing the bloke to shag her. I don't really think it mattered if she was going to allow him or not by this point, because the guy's pretty invested in it. He's bought the tape recorder, he's bought the caravan, he's got the caravan pitch, which is, everyone knows that's difficult, isn't it, to get somewhere where you can keep your caravan. And he's already gotten off with a mum, and he's gotten a quick ham shank off of a dad in the car, so it's only a matter of time at this point, really, that he's going to have his way with this little girl. In his mind, anyway, and unfortunately in reality. But the raping's not important here. I'm not focusing on the rape. I'm only focusing on the names of the aliens and the fact that there's two of them. Now, I'm not saying the aliens were real, but just like fictional aliens Kang and Kodos from The Simpsons, their names are very similar. Now, it seems pretty lazy from a creative standpoint. And are we to believe that people that made, what was it, 500 episodes of The Simpsons, maybe more, 30 series, maybe 20 episodes a series, were they lazy? Probably not at the beginning, not really towards the end, maybe in the middle. But Kang and Kodo seem pretty lazy names, but they follow the same sort of pattern as Zeta and Zethra. Very short, very snappy. They start with the same letter, sound very similar. Is there some reason behind it all? There must be a reason why he chose Zeta and Zethra, because he planned everything else. So he must have planned the names, and Kang and Kodos must have reference as well to something. Is there a pair of aliens that rule the world with two names that sound similar to each other? The rapist goes on to later. Spoiler alert, as I should say. I probably should have said this at the start. He works for the CIA, and he takes the kid to some nuns, and he dumps the kid with him. But what if this is what the CIA was actually doing at the time? What if he was actually CIA? Maybe he was dumping the kid there for the aliens and leaving him in the convent so that the nuns could tell the priests, "Oh, we've got one here who's pretty depressed. You want to come and harvest the negative energy in that?" Because we know that America's already, it's rife with, well, allegedly rife with child trafficking and molestation. But what if there's a reason, much like the idea I had that I just briefly went on there about Catholicism in a sort of, how it's a sort of organised crime, but the money's irrelevant, the money's like a cover story. Really, the priests are harvesting the negative energy from their subjects and their rape victims, like the little boys that ring the bells at the start of Mass, which is then harvested by the bishops, which is eventually fed back through a chain of command all the way up to the Pope, who then feeds or gives all of this negative energy as a tribute to the alien overlords or these extra dimensional beings that feed off of the world's negative energy that are always going to be there. Like the hyenas say at the end of the Lion King, we'll always be here. And that's something I spoke about in one of my podcasts, where the hyenas were like the extra dimensional beings. Well, anyway, why would the CIA be trying to rape kids and get them used to aliens? Is it because that they, the CIA, are aliens? Is it to protect the world? Are the CIA actually the time police or men in black that serve the Earth or protect the Earth in relevant timelines? We already know that MK Ultra was a thing, a fucking nasty thing where the Americans had raped kids and teenagers in order to cause trauma so that they could fracture their minds and rebuild their brains to create quote-unquote super soldiers, or otherwise brainwash people so that they can use them to manipulate society or small groups of society later on. And I don't know much about it. I know a bit, but I'd love to have a chat with someone about it. I'd love to have an interview on here with someone who has read or thinks they know a lot about MK Ultra. I don't mind if you don't actually know much at all. If you just make it all up, mate, you'll feed my mind. You'll probably feed other people's. But MK Ultra is this whole massive thing that's both terrifying to me and really interesting, because it seems like if it had happened to you, you wouldn't really know it had happened to you, because you're sort of hypnotized away from it. So what if that's what happens to us all, like when we're at school or something? And have you ever thought as well, just fairly quick, nothing to do with anything, but when you're in school and you get given them bottles of milk and everyone gets given the milk and the breadsticks. Now, you get given breadsticks to make your throat dry out so you're really thirsty, so you will drink the milk, to force you to drink that milk. Now, what's in the milk? Is there something in the milk? I never used to drink the milk. Doctors thought I was lactose intolerant as a kid, so I never drank it. And look at me now. I didn't drink the milk, and I've got thoughts and I've got my own ideas and that. I don't know what everyone else from school's doing. I don't know if they still carried on to drink milk. I drink milk now, but I don't drink milk that's made for kids to drink in schools. Anyway, that's a whole different thing. With the MK Ultra thing, there's loads of room for speculation too, so I think it'd be nice to have a discussion about what you think about it, what I think about it. So send us a message, mate, if you'd like to come on here and you actually know some stuff about it, and that maybe you've read a book or a pamphlet or seen a poster with it on. What if the way we perceive the church is relatively new? What if the structure in use now is relatively new as well, allowing for the harvesting of emotions like that? What if that's the reason why America is so mad into God and the idea of this all-seeing eye? Perhaps the all-seeing eye is a representation of the extra-dimensional beings being able to see us but not properly interact with us, either due to physical or metaphysical restriction. Like whatever basically stops ghosts from touching the physical realm. The pyramid could be the hierarchical structure of organised religion with the eye right at the top, but it could also be, could the pyramid not be, has anyone ever thought the pyramid could just be a sign of a prison where someone's trapped the all-seeing eye within this prison, and they can't interact with outside of this prison, but they can see out of it, and people can potentially see into it if they look for it, but they can't properly interact with it. They can only see it and perceive it. They can't actually do anything with it. Are we the eye? Now it is. Oh, I don't know how to say this, but what I'm thinking is, are they doing this? Are the church doing this to protect our home? Is it a symbiotic relationship between organised paedophilia and literal monsters? Is it all just pure conjecture? I'd like to think there's some horrible convoluted logic based in theology and science on the priests and their part for why they do it. Is it just done through the fear that they all have of these aliens, or even worse, is it all coincidental and there just happen to be loads of rapists knocking about who also happen to be blokes in like their early 30s who also just happen to be blokes that like wearing dresses, who also just happen to be blokes who like wearing dresses just on a Sunday morning, who also just happen to like ramming it up little boys' arses. It's a question. I think it's one of the questions of the age. It's not worth dwelling on, but it's a question, and you can't live your life like that, worrying about stuff like that. And if you or a loved one has been or is being molested by someone, please do something about it. I'm not taking a piss out of you, innit? I'll be taking a piss out of a paedophile every time, probably. Why not make fun of perverts? They shouldn't be protected. We should ridicule them because they're fucking kids. But you've got now to be ashamed of if you're being molested or out. Do something about it, innit? If you don't kill them, fucking don't kill them. You'll just ruin your life and then they win. But leave notes in windows, maybe in the front window or in other people's in your car window. You know, like some people have honk if you're horny. You could write, I'm honking because I get fiddled, and you just keep driving around beeping the horn. You know, or I honk because I'm fiddled. You just drive around doing that. You'll get people's attention. You'll make a bit of a dick of yourself initially, but it will bring you the help that I would imagine you would need. You could run away. You could go and tell a security guard in a shop or a librarian. Them guys never have anything to do. Neither of them. Security guards are always just standing around, and librarians are just always sitting around. So tell them, mate. A security guard would probably be happy for the little ego boost of thinking, fucking hell, someone thinks I'm, can help them, rather than thinking, oh, the only people I ever deal with are people that have tried to steal toasters, and they never want out to do with me. And the librarians, all they're going to do is tell people to shut up. So if you walk around the library going, I've been touched by Tig Biddy Dave. Tig Biddy Dave keeps trying to grab me. You know, the Tig Biddies, he's always there. He's always knocking about. He's outside now in his van. You start shouting that in a library, mate, people are going to take notice. People are going to pay attention. That librarian is going to come over and tell you to shut the fuck up. Do you not know we're in a library? And then you say, no, you're not listening to a word I say. Tig Biddy Dave has been trying to grab me from his van, telling me, come and have a look at me sweets. Oh, come in here and I've got a pack of Chewits and a pack of Fruitella. What do you prefer? You can have half and half of each. You know, or just, if you're young, tell all of your teachers. Some of your teachers won't care. They won't give a shit because it's not worth what they're paid. They're not paid enough to really deal with that. But some of them will care about their students. Very few and far between in my experience. But you've got now to be ashamed of. They're the ones in the wrong. The teachers that don't care about the students are obviously in the wrong. But, I mean, the rapists, the molesters, they're in the wrong. Don't plan to tell someone. Just do it whenever you get the chance. Tell your neighbours. Go full on Macaulay Culkin. Write a letter. Tie it round a brick and dash it through a window like in Home Alone 2. Try to avoid the whole like real life side of Macaulay. Was it heroin that got him? I mean, I know people say that they must have had a tough paper round when someone who's reasonably young looks quite old, and I guess his Saturday job was. I think working on a ranch, that very special ranch with the fairground rides, and he was getting railed up the arse by what looked like an actual fucking alien there. I'm not going to go into the whole Michael Jackson thing. That's another. I would like to go into celebrities and paedophile celebrities and have a laugh at them, take the piss out of them. But we need something a bit cheerier now, don't we? Something a bit. So here's a song that can give you some better life lessons than anything I could ever give you. This is The Manor, and this is their tune, Live for the Moment. I think it's weird that over time we've developed different alphabets, as ways of representing the same sounds. I know that Japan's got at least 3. They've got hiragana, katakana, and kanji, maybe more. And there's a couple variants on the English one, like the German one's got umlauts, the English one doesn't, like the British one doesn't. But it's still the same lettering, you know, and they've got that weird thing for a double S that looks like a capital B, but it's been drawn by maybe a left-handed person. And there's other ones through Europe, but think about the old ones, the proper old ones, not as far back as like your hieroglyphs, but nearly. Go back to ancient Greece, their alphabet. And we've mentioned Zeus before, and that got me thinking, what if all of this with the aliens started around that time? Or at least around the time of documenting the Greek gods and the lives of the ancient Greeks. In the Greek alphabet, they don't have a C, as in the letter C. Obviously, they had the sea around them. I think they were an island nation, weren't they? But they might still be. I'm sure Greece is an island. But just the very fact that I've even had to reaffirm that it's the letter C and not the wet bit of the world tells us something, and all it's disinformation, isn't it? It's a chance for getting rid of that from them. They use gamma, the ancient Greeks. They use gamma, alpha, beta, gamma, not A, B, C or R, B, C. It's alpha, beta, gamma. So what if that was their first bit of interference with the krill, from the krill? That was the first bit of interference from the krill in the human population of the world, but apart from obviously making us first with the DNA. But perhaps the gods of old didn't pass down the letter C to the Greeks, because that could potentially mean that they could change the way they worship by doing that. By getting rid of the letter C and changing C to a G, they could make them overprotective with something other than nature itself, because people seem to used to really care about nature, and then all of a sudden, like on the flip of a switch, everyone seems to only care about gods. So how did they do that? And see, to get there, and bearing in mind with the feedback I got of explain how you got to your thoughts, I'll try and tell you how I got there. To the shrimp, I would imagine that an Arctic cod or whatever other variant of cod is a huge threat, because it would be when it's going to eat them. And if they wanted to take over the world, the last thing they need is all the apes worshipping and protecting fish, even farming fish and making fucking more of them exist. The krill don't want that. And one of the biggest predators of the ocean-dwelling shrimp are the fish. Obviously, they're literally the biggest is whales, but so by simply eradicating the letter C, they've potentially introduced the concepts of gods. Rather than fishermen being fixated on fish like cods, they're now fixated on appeasing the gods, rather than looking for the fish of the oceans. In reality, the fish were what could once save us from the mass extinction event being brought upon us by the krill, the next great flood. Just like in the tales of Gilgamesh and Noah, why else would something flood the world if it wasn't so that they could live there? But if the shrimp do manage to flood this world like they supposedly flood the other worlds, then that'd mean the fish and the whales had survived too, and they needed to get rid of that threat. And I just want to show you how one simple change can change everything in the world. And the aliens didn't allow for the letter C, they changed it to gamma, because back then they knew that from a human point of view, only cod can save us now. And they didn't want us to know it. And it's weird to think that all these six-legged creatures, and to think about them just knocking about and making love to our women. But perhaps that's why the ancient Greeks were so welcoming of all different types of sex. Group sex, gay sex, straight sex. Probably the odd animal was thrown in for a fucking and all. As a side note, I've always wondered if I was to fuck an animal, what would it be? Not that I do, or I would, but why, and what would be my reasoning behind it? I wouldn't want to fuck a pig, because they've got those proper sharp hairs, like when you're butchering them now, and they've got the really thick hard hairs. You wouldn't want them in your thighs, it'd put you off your stroke, wouldn't it? So that'd be horrible, and that stabbing sensation in your I'm not about that. And they can't look you in the eye either when you're taking them from behind, and because they can't twist the neck all the way around because of the way the neck's developed, and they can't look up either when they're sucking you off and giving you a blowy, because a pig can't do that. Like a cow might be able to do that, or a sheep, but they're a bit big, aren't they? Like a cow's mouth is a bit big. You're gonna just feel sort of emasculated if you start putting your dick in a cow's mouth. So what would you want? What animal would you like to fuck? And not like, oh, because I think dogs are beautiful, but I want a reason, like a genuine reason. Oh, I've always thought to myself, I'd like to shag a box jellyfish because they're dangerous and I like a bit of danger. But like would want to fuck something super dangerous, like a massive spider, mate, the size of a car. All them legs to work with and hold them down, or a shark, or something that'd just be a right laugh. Like a imagine fucking a spider monkey, mate, or a gibbon. Maybe that's what Jim Jones was trying to do when he was knocking about on people's houses, selling them all spider monkeys. But I can never narrow it down. I can never decide. So let me know Find us on Twitter at World Around You and send a tweet to at World Around You. What animal you'd like to fuck given half the chance? I'm not going to judge you. Just tell me what you'd like to rattle and why. Anyway, back to shrimping orgies. Perhaps the shrimp introduced orgies to the masses of ancient Greece so that they could, 1, collect more skin suits, because they're going to need them, or the reptilians are going to need them, and 2, to not be noticed in the orgy. Who's keeping track of legs? You know, you've got 6 legs on a shrimp there. You're gunning for a very particular part of the body, and the knees, personally, have never been of interest to me. I can honestly say I've never really cared if a woman's knees even work. I don't look at knees and go, oh, they're good looking knees. Them never done it, mate. Who does? Fucking weirdos. I've never looked at someone and gone, she's got a pretty face, got good boobs, but her knees don't work or they don't look right. Couldn't give a shit, mate. But what can I say? Man, I'm a gentleman. Maybe everyone knew anyway that these massive shrimp were fucking the high society of Greece, but that's just made me realise I've assumed something about the shrimp there as well. I've assumed that the human-sized shrimp, what if they skin their farmed people and fill the skins with billions of shrimp? People were smaller back then and all, so maybe not the modern-day equivalent of a dwarf height, which was supposedly 147 centimetres and below. 147 centimetres a person, fat or thin, that's a fucking lot of shrimp to fill it, innit? And I reckon you'd notice even back then, because people weren't stupid. They'd still been educated and had common sense, but we all know that a skin bag full of live shrimp and brine would be all floppy and probably be pretty dense and all, be like a waterbed, it'd be weird. The orgies could have even been some form of breeding party, so that the shrimp people of the sea could create half-breeds to do their bidding for them on land. And what if these orgies were super exclusive or just few and far between? Would you really care if you're fucking a bag of shrimp, or if you're just having sex with a shrimp man or shrimp woman? Would you care? Because it means that you're in high society and you're being included in that, so it's a status symbol. Who cares? If you can be with the kings and the princes and the leaders and the queens and the princesses and the highest rungs of ancient Greek society. Would you care if you're shagging a keratin sack full of salt water and crustaceans? Because, when life gives you lemons. That was Lemon by Conway the Machine and Method Man. New tune there. Also, possibly the cleanest segue of the episode. And I think we've gotten towards the end there, guys. That's got to be about an hour there and thereabouts. On a completely unrelated note, I got into the papers recently for making portable i5 machines out of disembodied rat paw. So it's a little rat's paw on a spring, and you can give an i5 that extra couple inches for COVID distancing, So go and give that a look in the New York Post. Hopefully any answers that you need from questions raised by hearing that statement will be answered in the interview that I gave with the couple that scares together, which is a podcast that you can apparently now find on YouTube, but you'll definitely find it on Spotify, Spreaker, Anchor, whatever else exists. I don't know where else you can find podcasts, but wherever you find your podcasts, go and give them a listen. Find it. It's Portals to Hell episode. I've got an interview on there. You don't have to tell them it was me that sent you, but tell them that you listen so that they know that what they're doing isn't a waste of their time. If not, fire me your questions and I'll try and answer them for you. And I'm hoping that for your sake, this show started with a bit of smoke around you, in or around you. And if not, we're definitely ending with some. Here's something to bring you down from all the stuff I've just filled your head with. Something to, ease you into the next part of your day. A little bit less sort of like padded hour and a bit more sort of now easing and relaxing. Anyway, I'm Jack, the world around you, and according to the New York Post, Britain's wackiest taxidermist, this was Pause for Thought on Threshold FM, and this is Blackberry Smoke with Run Away From It All.